Hi everybody, this is Saiji Dan,
Mouse.
and this video is the application of the cross form. Now the cross form goes right side then left side, right side then left side. So we're not going to go through all of that because it repeats. We're just going to show you one side or one sequence and the application thereof. And then when you're training, you can recognize that it happens whether it's on the left side of your body or the right side of your body. Now, we're going to introduce something in the cross form. We're going to introduce a kick. And the first kick we introduce in our aka is actually going to be a snapping front kick. And we use the snapping front kick in the high art or in the self-defense application of high art as a distractor. Distractor strikes do not mean they're not effective. It does not mean they're weak. It means the goal of them is to deliver some pain and distract your opponent so that you can continue delivering other techniques. It's the understanding that fights are rarely finished with one strike, one finish. That's just not how it works in real life. He's moving, I'm moving, strikes don't land as hard as they should. It's hard to finish a fight in one blow. So the distractor does exactly that. We'll distract him so that I can come in and use other things. So, if Cy Miles and I are facing each other, in the first sequence of the cross form, he steps off with initial evasion. So he'll step out, just get set, okay, whichever one you're going to do, all right? And he's getting offline, and he's staying relaxed, and he's getting here, and he's ready to go, okay? And this is, again, part of the aka, part of the art. I do not recommend fighting people like this. But, come back. We're facing each other like this, and I'm going to get you, and you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to come after you in a second. So he's going to step over here just to be safe. And so as he moves out of the way, we get set in the aka square 50-50. But in application, you're going to wind up doing your leans because this entire aka is about the Bando sway, and we're going to get into that in just a second. So first he gets set. Let's just get set in our pretty form. But the reality is I'm here. So as I go, I might shift and kick with my lead foot. I might kick with my back foot. This might be my lead. But as somebody moves over this way, in this aka, I'm going to kick with the foot that is on my side closer to the movement he went. So if I throw a kick out here, he's going to catch my kick by coming back online. Did you see what he just did? Here's the application. Go back to your set. And then as I kick him, he's going to catch my foot here and snapping kick up to a distractor. He's not kicking hard as he can. He's not trying to break my legs. He's just kicking me right in the groin. Snap, really snapping front kick. He's kicking, he's pointing his toes down. He's kicking with the top of his foot right here. You guys know how to use the snapping front kick. And that snapping front kick is coming up and giving me a snap. Okay? Right into the distracting area. And what's going to happen when that happens? Okay? If I throw this kick, and he catches me and snaps. That's right. I'm going to fall down. And he's going to step forward past me and drive into an outside block to hold me up here. Because I'm probably falling forward, right? Because he kicked me. If he drops my foot and drives in, he goes into this outside block. The application is right here. Then he's going to pivot and do that short punch. Okay? If I collapse this, or if I'm blocking down with this, what's one of our essential lessons? The immediate deployment of the secondary punch. And that's the application of this. Okay? The first sequence is grappling for the very beginning and then separating from your opponent. Even though you're stepping forward, you're separating. You're making sure we're not grabbing each other. So the application of the first sequence with that kick is exactly that. You're catching, your distractor, you're driving out with an outside block, shooting, okay? All right. So that's the application. Now, of course, an outside block in aka is really beautiful, good bar. It's very nice because you can shove up, right? You can, of course, in an application, it can be an overhead block or an outside block, depending on what's happening to me. If I'm turning to come in, that outside block helps set me up. If I'm falling forward, an overhead block might push me up. But in the aka, it's an outside block. So that's the application of the first sequence. Second, third, and fourth sequence are all essentially the same except for your position in space. Okay? And we'll talk about how we really play with the fifth sequence in just a second. But 2, 3, and 4 are all about initial evasion, the whole Bando sway, delivering a strike that is appropriate to your distance, and following it up with a secondary. So, go to your X block, step back to your L stance low block. So he gets out of the way and leans away, and he's blocking out my kick. Okay? So if he's blocking out my kick, when I step down aggressively, because he's far away, I have to chase him if I want to punch. So I step in and I throw a double punch, because this is a more sophisticated block. So he has to block 2 times in one sway. Boom, boom. And that's why the swaying is so important. Your head has to move to get out of the way. Boom, boom. And then from there, he can just pivot and continue to punch, and shifting forward, I'm within range of a long punch. So you've got to know, and we learned that, of course, with counterpunching in the very first form, the point form. There's his range. He throws that punch. Now, I'm a sophisticated opponent. So go back to your L stance low block. So I'm a sophisticated opponent. Boom, boom. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to stop him. He throws that punch, right? And I start blocking down. He comes over and up into that secondary. Immediate deployment. Whatever happens, if I'm redirecting that punch and stopping it from hitting where it's going to go, throw that long punch, he's going to come around and rotate it in. Okay? On the next sequence here, I want to show you what happens if we get close, and instead of blocking his short punch, I'm going to try to grab it. Because in all of these sequences, there's a hidden technique of stripping a grab. So I like to teach it at the in stance, because it's when you get in close that people start grabbing. So, go to your feet together in X, like we're in the form. Go to your in stance and the high-low block. He drives out here with a high-low block, protecting himself here. And this time he'd be pushing this punch out of the way. He'd be moving outside my line. He wouldn't want to be coming across me here. So this step forward would be for this kick, which immediately sets me off with something like this, trying to back fist or something and come across. All right? So if he steps out and does that block, and then I come in with this and he does that Bando sway, and he comes out here, and he has that short punch. If he comes in that short punch and I try to grab it, if I'm intercepting or grabbing or coming in here, trying to block it, so in order to get rid of this, we're going to get into a fight. So if he just turns his thumb down, and then punches my hand with his other hand, he can pull it out of my grip. Okay? And then, look where he's at. It's that secondary. So this secondary punch, when you do it, you turn your thumb down, you can punch your opponent's grip off if you immediately deploy it. If we start getting caught up in frozen moments in time, what if he grabs it really hard with 3 hands? Right? Well, put your hand out there. I'm going to grab you with 3 hands. Right? Why would that happen in real life? Well, let me give you a sweet answer. It wouldn't, because he'd just start punching me. Right? See, there's no frozen moments in time. What happens is it's immediately deployed. He throws a short punch, I grab it, and that's much harder to grab. Okay? He throws a short punch, he'll pull it out, and that's good, but do your secondary. Secondary. Okay? If I grab that, secondary. Okay? It's immediate deployment with the secondary punch. All right? Step to the other side. In stance. Just so they can see a slightly better thing. If he goes out here, if I'm sitting out here, and I'm coming with my hammer fist, and he's sitting out here, and I start to collapse, and I grab that, it's just going to come out. Okay? So, whatever craziness I'm doing, he can pull out. It can even work if I'm a sophisticated opponent, and he steps forward with that block, and I recover, and I come out here, and he throws that punch, because he's just in his sway, and none of that matters. Oh, no, you don't. Ha-ha. Right? It's not going to matter if we immediately deploy. But the practical application of getting in close is now we're getting into grappling and it's getting sloppy. We're starting to collapse on each other. We're starting to trap into each arm. And so you can pop it off. And that's the application of that one. Now if he goes to an H stance to get out of the way, he might go to an H stance to get out of the way because I'm coming in with a really strong kick trying to occupy space. Because that's something we teach in our system, is there's kicking at a range, there's punching at a range, we're feeling each other out, and then there's power striking. And power striking, he'll step in and kick me and take my spot, occupying the space. So if I'm coming in here and I'm going to occupy this guy's space, I want you to do the H stance that way. So I'm coming in here doing this kick, and he goes, occupy space, boom. So I step out, now I throw this punch, block, block, okay? Same thing, the Bando sway, and then he comes back in. Long punch is the appropriate punch here. Because I'm still in this space, and he's aiming out on this angle, and I'm starting to move out, because if the occupied space didn't work, I'm not, let's pretend for just a second, I know what some of you are thinking, but I'm not an idiot. Let's pretend that he steps out and does that kick and blocks, and I just try to pull back. So I was trying to occupy the space, but I didn't let it happen. Long punch. Still there. So proprioceptively aware of your body in space, my body in space, the appropriate target, the appropriate weapon. Long punch from this spot will come through and get your opponent, whether he occupies that space or whether he pulls back. He's still within range as long as this is happening quickly. So go out there and throw that long punch again while I'm back away. Just throw the punch out. Boom. So if I get back here and I go, ugh, secondary, right? Throw that punch again. Ugh, secondary. Okay? The only thing that is a little bit hard with the secondary is if he's throwing that and I'm trying to go up here. That's the only time the secondary gets stuck. But if he takes his hand and punches my hand away, he can still do his secondary by pulling back, coming back, pulling back, and coming back, down and back. Okay? Immediate deployment of the secondary punch. Now, let's play a little bit with the last sequence, which is a covering and a draw punch. Okay? And this sequence winds up in pretty much all the versions of this aka. So, yeah, do the cross stance with the high-low. Now, cross stance, high-low, again, is kind of, we always say the cross stance is the uh-oh stance, right? The cross stance is, I gotta get out of here. Not, ooh, I'd like to get in the cross stance to fight, right? So, but you have to be aware that not everything goes your way. You have to be able to cross stance and balance. You have to be able to do a worst-case scenario. And you've got to train so that you have balance and you're not going to trip over yourself. So this cross stance is extremely important. But if he steps out of there to do that blocking of that kick, or cover his body, if I'm doing a punch down here, for example, when he comes back and does his cross block, it's really hard to get that one going, okay? It's really hard to get that going. So go back again. Now watch this. At the cross stance level, we can ask the question, what if I'm punching? Just like we could ask that question at the in stance, but in the cross stance level, the application I like to apply for this cross stance is preferably a punch. I throw the punch, I throw the punch, I throw the punch, and he grabs me. Okay? This arm is going to cover. Okay? So he can pull me in here and do this punch and then just do a secondary. Boom. Because he's in control of my arm. Okay? What if he doesn't grab me? He steps away, punch, 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 right? That cross-covering block, get in the way. Do it again. 1, 2, 3, cover elbow, boom, boom, boom. Anything I try to do that's up high, if I come down on the punch, the secondary just flows automatically. And so that's the application there. These applications work whether you're standing, seated, walker, crutches. The applications are essentially the same. All of our applications are scalable, but I like to practice in my head the idea of sometimes I might be getting into a trapping situation, so I'm going to break it free. Sometimes I might be in a position where I'm grabbing him, and then sometimes we're staying far away. Just remember that at this level, in a practical application of this aka, we've reached the point where more often than not, we're going to start holding on to each other. We're going to start grabbing each other. We're going to start grabbing hands when we block them. We're going to start pulling weapons out of the way. Okay? So that's the application in a nutshell of the cross form.